Uh, Welcome. Everyone give it up into the chat for Amy and RunningMate. There you go.
Thanks so much, y'all. Hi, my name is Amy. Pronouns are she, her. I am here from Austin, Texas, but I got my start organizing in red, rural Texas, helping our rural county party and then candidates to run for office. And then when Trump came along, I decided I needed to get more involved. And so I've been working for political organizations since then. Um, so I work for Civitech, which is the organization that built RunningMate. And they were kind enough to send me to Arena Academy in 2021, actually. And my class, the campaign manager track was the one I did. It was the first class that went fully remote at the pandemic. So we were originally scheduled to fly to North Carolina, I think the following week, and then the world shut down. So so that was my arena experience. It was awesome. So I still send people to the arena trainings whenever possible. So yeah, so I appreciate y'all's time, appreciate you being here. I'm going to share a slide deck for a little bit, tell you a little bit about Civitech and RunningMate, the tool, and then I'll show you the tool itself. So if you have any questions, then you can put them into the Q&A section and we will try to answer them. I've also got another teammate on here. She may be dropping some blurbs there in the chat as well. And I'll put my email in the chat towards the end as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us there directly. And with that, I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. Okay. Okay, let me put this into slideshow mode. Okay, so you should be able to see my slide deck. So again, thank you, Arena, for having us here. We always love talking to the Arena audience. So who are we? We are Civitech. We work with strictly Democratic or progressive candidates and organizations nationwide. We have been around since 2019 and we were founded in part because there's a voter registration um, problem, a gap that's not really being addressed by any other organization. So um, we tried to take that on, and then we've also taken on other things as well since then, but I'll get a little bit more into that. And so a few of the ways that Civitech helps in the ecosystem is we have data. So we've got a nationwide voter file that we maintain through the Secretaries of State for all 50 states. We also have a couple of databases of unregistered people. So we have one that we've sourced from public files such as college enrollment records and public records, so like teachers, nurses, professional license holders, things like that. We compare that to the voter file and figure out which of these people are registered, which are not. And then we've got our bucket of people that we know exist but are not registered. And then we also have another bucket of unregistered people, which are people who have moved to a different address but have not re-registered at that new address. So they're technically not registered at their current residence. So we've also got a tool called Text Out. So that's a peer-to-peer texting tool. It's really cool. It makes it really easy to send, especially your outbound messages. We have something called Power Send. So you can send all of your initial outbounds um, all at once just by pressing a button. And it makes it really fast so you can focus time on those replies. And then we do direct mail. So I mentioned we have the unregistered data sets. So one of the things that we do with those unregistered data sets is that we target them with direct mail. So we'll send them a voter registration form with a pre-addressed stamped envelope. Um, and then if we have a phone number for them, we also pair that with texting and we'll text them and say, hey, you should have just received your voter registration application in the mail. Be sure you get that back by X day. And that's proven to be really successful. We've already registered millions of people doing that. And so that's one of the main projects that we do year after year is voter registration by mail. And then our newest sort of tool is that I'm going to be focusing on primarily today is RunningMate. So I'll get a little bit more into that. This is just a little bit about some of the organizations that we've worked with over the years. So we're trusted by a lot of large organizations, including Arena, which we appreciate. Um, and so what is RunningMate? RunningMate is a voter file and data visualization dashboard. We are building it with new and under-supported campaigns and candidates in mind in particular. So we've tried to make it super easy to use and uh, just easy to onboard. It's accessible. So even if you weren't hearing about Running Mate through Arena, which because of this partnership, you'll receive access to it for free. But even if you weren't, if you were just a candidate coming to us cold, the cost to access Running Mate is really affordable. So for things like school board and city council, it's $20 a month all the way up to statewide, which is the most expensive, but even still, it's only $200 a month. So we've really tried to make it accessible as far as cost, because we know that that's one of the blockers for people to be able to access this voter data that they need to be able to run a successful campaign. So, a couple of other things that Running Mate has that I'll show you here in just a little bit, but we have a turnout and win number calculator built in. So you can figure out what your likely win number is going to be so that you can shoot for it. We've also got goal tracking. So as you talk with people and collect support scores, you can track your progress towards your goals. Um, and then if you had a field team out there collecting support scores and talking to people, then you'd be able to see those updates live in real time on your instance. So um, it also allows you to create as many tags as you would like. So for any sort of data point that you're wanting to collect, you can create a tag for that, and then people in your workspace can tag people who they have conversations with that meet those criteria. Um, there's also unlimited downloads and uploads, so you don't have to ask for permission to download. Those downloads do include phone numbers and email addresses. If we have them, then they're provided. Um, you can add as many users as you would like to your workspace as well. So if you have a large team or a large volunteer team, you can add as many of those folks as you would like. And then we also have daily office hours. So if you had any questions or how do you use this certain feature, or if you want help brainstorming, then you can sign up for our daily office hours, and we are glad to help with that. So I mentioned before that Running Mate is built with first-time and under-supported candidates in mind in particular. So anywhere from down ballot city council and school board races all the way up to statewide races. But we also work with other entities as well. So we have a ton of county and state parties on the platform. We've also got PACs and organizations that focus on voter registration or turnout. We've also got some other organizations that focus on candidate recruitment. Um, and then just democratic and progressive organizers who just want to make a difference where they live. So we're able to support all of those types of folks. Okay, there we go. So as I mentioned before, thanks to the Arena partnership with Civitech, we're able to offer you access to Running Mate Pro for free for a year. So there's instructions here on how to sign up for it. I had also put it into the chat a little bit ago, but if you wanted to access Running Mate in your district, you could just go to runningmate.io/sign up, select Pro, and then choose your district. And then at the checkout, use the code ARENA25, and then you'll get 100% off for 12 months. Another kind of add-on for the partnership is that if anyone needs peer-to-peer texting and they decide to sign up with us with Text Out, then they'll receive 5,000 free texts with their first 5,000. So you buy 5,000 text segments and we'll double it and make it 10. So I put the information there as well on how to get in contact with our team about that. So you would just email sales@civitech.io and they would be able to set up a demo for you and get you started there. Um, so I am going to switch over now to show you all RunningMate. So if you do have questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A section. I've also got a frequently asked questions slide that'll come up after this, after the demo is over. And I know that folks will be receiving this slide deck at the end as well. So hopefully it'll help answer some questions that may pop up. So I'm going to stop my share so that I can switch over and just need to find my window. Oops, there we go. All right. Okay, so it's reloading at the moment, so it's goes a little bit slow whenever we are screen sharing, but okay. So this is what RunningMate looks like. So this is what it would look like if you were to log in. Um, It is very visual, so you can see that we're looking at the registered voters. This instance is also looking at the unregistered voters or unregistered people that we have here in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. But you can also see when the voter file was last updated for that state. So in this case, it was updated at the beginning of May. This center panel here, the target summary, you can scroll down and get a better idea of the demographics of the district. This is also dynamic and it changes as you either interact with the map or add filters. So the map is interactive, as I mentioned. You can hover over any of the precincts to get an idea of their demographics and uh, partisan lean, things like that. You can also click on any of these precincts as well, and then it updates this target summary in the middle. You can click on multiple of them as well if you're looking at a particular area. And then you can also zoom into the map. So there's a couple of layers here. There's a pie chart layer, which just gives an overview of the partisanship of the people in that area. So it's color coded. Blue are likely Democrats, gray are unknown, and red are likely Republicans. And then you can zoom all the way down into the household level as well. And these are also going to be color coded. I'll show you that here in a moment. Okay. Awesome. So you can see here we've got purple ones in addition to the other colors. So these are going to be households that have people who are either registered as or modeled as Democrats and someone else who is modeled as or registered as a Republican. So in this case, this person is registered as a Democrat. Let's see. And someone else that this person lives with is registered as a Republican. So you can just kind of see it gives the general information about them. It gives their vote history. So this person votes. Um, if you were to download, if you were to create a list and then download the information, all of this information here would be included. But there's a couple of different download types that'll provide more information than what's here in that card. So we have one download type that's like your super in-depth voter file. So it's going to have all of their vote history. Like, did they vote in the 2016 primary, Democratic primary? Yes or no? Did they vote in the 2020? Yes or no? And then it'll also have all of their voting districts. So like state Senate, state House, congressional district, things like that. So standard voter file. And then the second download type will be much more trimmed down. So it'll have far fewer columns, but it'll have this basic information here. And then it'll also have their contact information. So if we have phone numbers or email addresses, it'll be included there in that download type. So, um, And then I had mentioned before, we have those unregistered uh, targets, the database. So the subscription level that's included with the Arena partnership includes the registered targets. So if you were interested in accessing those unregistered targets that were in your district, then you would just send us a message and we can get you a quote for that cost. Um, so um, going to show you a few of the other features and tools here on RunningMate. So the left side has the more basic filter set. So you can build lists here and then export them from this home page. There's also a more complicated universe builder over here that I'll show you here in a moment. Um, but just to highlight a few things, we've got some preset filters. So um, we've got your base targets. Those are going to be your strong Democrats who are likely to turn out to vote. They have a high voter turnout propensity. Um, and then we've got turnout targets. Those are going to be modeled as or registered as Democrats, and they have a lower turnout score, so they don't turn out to vote as often. Then we've got persuasion targets. Those are the folks more in the middle. So you need to persuade them to vote Democratic or vote for you. And then the fourth filter type is the registration targets. Um, you can see the map changes as you add filters. It turns into a target density map. So you can see, like in this county in particular, the number of unregistered people is higher in these darker precincts here. And then you can layer on other filters as well. So if in this case we were doing a voter registration campaign focused on young women of color, then we could just add filters here. 5, there we go. And then we would get our number of targets right here. So you can tell that the darker ones here are where the higher number of unregistered young women of color are living, or in these darker precincts. Um, so there's also a few sections down here. So there's tags and survey responses. So these are going to be data that you're able to import or add at an individual level to people's voter record or contact record. So I mentioned before that you can add as many tags as you would like. So for whatever data point that you want. Um, and so if you have priority issues or if you want to mark your donors, you want to mark teachers, college students, first-time voters, things like that, you can create tags for those. And then when you're building lists, you can either include or exclude people who have those tags. So for instance, if you're doing a persuasion campaign of some sort, you're trying to turn out people you're not sure are your supporters, then you'd probably want to exclude your donor list, right? So that you're not wasting time and effort on those folks who are so much so your supporters that they donate money to you. There's a couple of survey responses here at the bottom. So um, all accounts have access to the support score survey response. And then if you had access to the unregistered data, then you would also have access to the voter registration intent survey response. That's basically just, do they intend to get registered to vote? Yes, no, or undecided. The support scores, though, those are the likelihood that they're going to support you, your campaign, your cause. So 1 means that they're a strong supporter, 5 means that they are strongly opposed to you. Um, and these feed into goal tracker. So I mentioned that we have the win number calculator and the goal tracking. And so goal tracker is how you would do that. So I'm going to click over there and show that, although I need to reset my goals. Oops, not that. Resetting my goals here. Okay. So this is a workflow that brings you to this page, but it asks you to put in information about past similar elections. So if you were running in a countywide like this person, you would want to put in information about a similar countywide race. So you would put in how many people turned out to vote in that particular race previously, and how many people were registered and could have turned out to vote in that race previously. You can put as many as 3 previous elections information in, and then it does the math for you up there at the top to calculate the voting rate. So there we go. So looks like between these two previous races, we'd have a 71% voting rate. So if we anticipate that that's going to be similar in the future, then you can keep that. If you know that it's going to be a super high turnout in this election, because people are passionate, fired up, you can also adjust that if you would like. But the second step here, it applies the previous voting rate, that 71% voting rate, to the total number of registered voters right now. So we have 802,000 people registered right now. If we have a 71% voting rate, as we did previously, then we're expecting 569,000 people to turn out to vote in this election. So it then gives you the win number calculation below that. So we take that turnout estimate, how many people we estimate are going to turn out to vote, and apply it to the win number. So we've got the breakdown of the math here. So it's 50% of this turnout estimate plus a 3% win margin. And that is what we calculate as your win number. Sorry. So you would click continue if you're satisfied with this. You can adjust these numbers as well if you want. If you wanted a larger margin, then you could adjust that higher if you'd like, but it defaults to 3%. So then it breaks down your voter universes here on the third step. So I mentioned we've got the base voters. Those are going to be strong Democrats who are likely to turn out to vote. So we're pretty sure that you've got their vote. And then we've got your voter ID goal below that. So that's going to be two components, your turnout universe and your persuasion universe. So we've got 81,000 people marked in the turnout universe. So you can stick with the default, which I should have mentioned up here. So it shows you that in order to reach your win number of 302,000, you're going to need to talk to more people than that to be able to turn them out to vote, right? So we anticipate that you need to talk to at least 150% of your win number, so 453,000, to be able to hit that win number of 302,000. And so that's what these buckets are here is the breakdown, the math breakdown of how to hit that number. So if you talk to 56,000 of the turnout targets and 207,000 of these persuasion targets, then you'll be able to hit that. We think that you'll be able to hit that win number. So you would click continue, save your goals, and then it brings you to that other goal tracker map that I had showed you briefly earlier. So this is where you would track your progress as you're making contact and getting support scores from people. So the left side shows that we have gotten positive support scores from 4,700 people so far, and it breaks it down by the different universes. So we've talked to and gotten positive support scores from 78 of the 56,000 turnout targets, and then 3,200 of the 207,000 persuasion targets. The map over here updates as you get more of those support scores added in. So it's shading darker blue in the areas that you've made the most progress. So you can hover over any of those precincts and see, like in this precinct, we have 589 turnout targets, and then 483 persuasion targets. We've talked to 11 and 152, respectively, of those people and gotten positive support scores back. So you can hover over any of the precincts. You can also click on these precincts as well. If you want to get an idea over here, it creates a precinct list, and then you can also scroll down here and see the progress in those precincts also. So one of the other features that I think is really cool and unique is we have a priority precincts filter here. So if you click that, it'll highlight the precincts that have the most opportunity area for you. So these are going to be the precincts that have the most turnout and persuasion targets. So it highlights them here. and then it creates a precinct list over here, like I mentioned, and then you can also scroll down and get an idea of how much progress you're making. And then if you wanted to export that list and do a mailing campaign or do block walking, texting, phone banking, whatever it is, you could then download it from here as well if you wanted to just focus on those priority precincts. So a few other useful tools. So we have the search individuals functionality. So this is going to be what you're able to access from your phone. So there's no app to download like a minivan. If you just log into RunningMate from a regular web browser, you'll be able to use this functionality, the search individuals functionality. And you can type in either a name or an address. So if you're like just hanging out on Main Street, type in Main Street and you can see who is there and what their partisanship is. So you'll be able to see this map here and see the dots as well. And then you can click into them from the map, or you can click into them from over here from this list. So let's say we were right here. We talked to Dejan. We can see a bit about his history here. So he voted in 2020, but it doesn't look like he voted in 24. But we're talking to him at his door, and he says he's a strong supporter. He's going to turn out to vote for you. And you want to add some tags as well. So one of his priority issues, he's anti-Trump and pro-LGBTQ rights, and he wants a yard sign. So you can add all of those tags. And then later, if you're trying to, say, make a list of people who still need yard signs, you can go back to the homepage and just make a list of people who need yard signs. So another functionality. So this is how you would make updates at an individual level. So you can search up one person, make updates, search up the next person. So if you wanted to make more updates in bulk, like if you had a donor list, for instance, that you have voter ID, state voter file ID for, then you could upload that list and we would be able to match it back by the state voter file ID. And you can add tags and support scores in bulk that way by importing. And then finally, the universe builder. This was just released a couple of weeks ago. We are still actively developing this tool and we've got a lot more things on the roadmap. So I can get into that here in a little bit, but Universe Builder is your more complex way to build lists. So you have to name all of your universes. So arena, universe, and then you can add query blocks. So if you wanted, let's say, registered Democrats, let's say, registered Dems, okay, who are in at least, who have voted in at least, let's see. So these are the past several general elections. So if you want people who are registered as Democrats who have voted in at least 4 of these last 5 general elections, then you could do that. There we go. And then that would give you your universe of these people who are consistent Democratic voters. You can also use this functionality to, there we go. So we've got lots of strong voters here. If you wanted to exclude people, so say you are not trying to talk to your donors right now, you could exclude your donors. We go. Or if you wanted to exclude anyone registered as a Republican, which they shouldn't show up anyways because we've got it set to register Dems. But then you could use this exclusion block here at the bottom. But this is the way that you would make just more complicated universes. And then you would save it and There we go. Oh, I didn't have any donors marked that were in that category. Um, so you could save that universe and then you can download it from here as well. So this is another place that you can download from. You could download that universe. And then if you wanted to go visit a different universe that you had built previously, then you could do that from here. All right, so one final little bit to show you is if you had questions, if you wanted to access our help articles, you could do so from that question mark icon right there. There's also one up here in the top. So you'll be able to access any of the help articles. Most of them have videos as well. So they go more in depth into a lot of these features. You could also say hi to Elena, which is our 24/7 support assistant, and she will talk to you and try to answer your questions.
Hi, I'm Elena, your digital campaign assistant. My mission is to help you get elected. How can I help you today?
Hey, Elena, can you tell me about the voter registration intent goal tracker, please?
Let me show you how the voter registration intent goal tracker works. The voter registration intent goal tracker helps.
There we go. And then last thing about Elena is she can also translate conversations for you. So if you were talking to someone at their door and they only spoke Spanish, you could ask her to translate the conversation and then hold down the microphone button, say your piece, let her talk and translate it into Spanish, and then hold down the button again and let them speak back to you in Spanish, and then she would translate it back to you in English. Um, so yeah, so with that, I'm going to pause. I know I'm approaching time here, so I don't know if we have some more time still for the Q&A.
Yeah, we have a ton of questions in the Q&A. So if you want to take a peek at those, there are a lot of really great questions, and you can sort by the most upvotes because folks have been upvoting different questions along the way. And so, yeah, a lot of great questions. So if you're able to stay on a little extra and answer, we'd love to yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Amy. The first I want to start because I was answering some along the way while you were speaking. We do have someone that mentioned or asked what data sources are being used into the modeling for DNR or Democratic or Republican, and does the data being used for the modeling change state to state?
Yeah, so it depends on if your state has party registration or not. If it does have party registration, then we factor that into the model. So things that go into the model are party registration, the voters' behavior. So do they vote in Democratic primaries? And then demographics as well, and how the precinct that they live in turns out. So is it a Democratic or Republican precinct? So all of those are kind of factored into whether a person's modeled as Democratic or Republican. I see another one that asks if supports where the support scores are derived from. So that's going to be from your conversations with the voter. So you have a conversation, they say, nope, I'm not going to support you. Then you mark them as a 5. They're strongly opposed to your campaign. I see another one. Do we have API integrations, particularly with Vote Builder? Not yet, although we are actively working on that. And should be coming soon. And is there backend SQL access for things like fine tuning a pre-built universe? We do not have that ability at this moment. But I'd be glad to talk more about the use case that you have in mind. Our product team is always looking for feedback on things that may be useful for folks that would be using a tool like this. Can goal tracker be segmented or broken down more? Yes. So the goal tracker, trying to remember if it's enabled for statewide use or not. I think that it is. But the statewide RunningMate looks a bit different than a particular district. So you're able to change what district type you're viewing it by. So like in this, it defaults to county, but if you wanted to look at congressional districts instead, you could look at that, or state house or state senate. So that's one of the unique things about the statewide. I would need to double check on it as far as the goal tracker piece in particular, just because I'm not sure of the answer for that. So yes, you could exclude. I don't know that we can exclude by household. It would exclude by the voter. So the voter themselves would not be included if you decided to exclude people who are registered as Republicans or modeled as Republicans. So it wouldn't necessarily exclude the household, though. So this other person says, we're in a primary challenging an incumbent. The opponent has access to van. So that's not ideal, assuming he's not already using RunningMate. Can you separate out Dems in the same county district? Not sure what you mean by that. I do know that people are able to use RunningMate regardless of whether they have a Democratic opponent who's on van or on RunningMate. So we don't like disallow someone to use RunningMate unless they are a Republican or obviously conservative, obviously MAGA. Then we don't allow them. And then you said if it's not an app, is it hard to use on the phone browser? So the only functionality that's available on the phone browser is the search individuals functionality in the map that's there. So you can't do like the list building and things like that from your phone. You would have to do that from your computer first.
Are you able
Yes,
to
so
demo?
support score.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
continue.
sorry, go ahead. What?
I was just gonna say it looks
No,
like
I was gonna.
yeah, it looks like Shrunty might be confused that, we're doing like we're modeling the survey support scores. Like it's not like the party lean. I don't know if you could kind of go over the survey responses and how you can, I think you did in the beginning. I don't know if that's what they're asking here.
Right, yeah. So the support scores are based on the conversations that you've had with that person. So so they're inputs that you or your volunteers put in. Whereas the modeling is just the modeling of how the math breaks down and how we think this person may vote. So one of the top pieces says, paying for the state voter file is cheaper, although Arena folks get access to it for free, so that's pretty cheap. So what is the reason for gathering the data? For them to pay to use it. So the state voter file is not cheap in some states. In some states, it's prohibitively expensive. And it would be very difficult for a new candidate, especially if they're running for a statewide, to be able to afford to access that. There's some states where it's like tens of thousands of dollars just to access it one time. And then you've got a snapshot of the people who are currently registered, but you're not going to get updates, right? You'd have to pay for it again to get updates. So that's one of the reasons. We just want to make it easier to access the voter data that people need to access. So that's one of the reasons that we have built this. So. Let me scroll here in the chat as well and see if I've got everything there. We'd love to hear back from you though as well. So I'm going to put my email in the chat as well. So if you do have any other questions after this, you can always send us an email. I'm always also glad to walk you through your particular district and answer any questions that you've got about that particular district. Or as we had mentioned before, you can just sign up. You'd go to runningmate.io/sign up and select pro, then select your district, and then use the code ARENA25. And yeah, then we will get you on board. So yeah.
Amy, thank you so much for walking us through RunningMate. Thank you to Civitech for continuing partnership with Arena. We're dropping some links in with those promo codes. Be on the lookout for an email from us with all the details and recording and all the information that was shared here. So give it up in the chat for Amy and the Civitech and RunningMate team. Thank you all again for just hanging out with us. If you do have ideas or thoughts on what the song of the summer is, I'm still in search of that. So that's from the banter at the very, very beginning. Maybe the recording caught any of that. But anyways, thank you all for being here with us. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Amy. Always glad to have an arena grad on the stage. And so everyone have a good rest of your day. And we'll see you around.